Butterface. I've heard it all my adult life. A mean little jab I've learned to swallow, along with its complimentary backwash. I'm not conventionally pretty, they're right about that. And that isn't self-deprecation. I'm not fishing. I know how I look, how my father made me look. My nose is crooked. He broke it more times than I can count. My teeth are crooked too. Not strictly his fault, but the scars are. When I was 8, he sewed my lips shut with an embroidered needle and a roll of twine. He called it an improvement, one that he repeated every few months thereafter. The needle left dozens of scars. His parenting left more. He called me names, denigrated me, maligned my attempts to pretty myself. But all of his abuse couldn't prevent my development. Boys took notice. They stared, gawked, and then they'd look up. Damn, she's hot. But her face. Butterface. My father left home when I was 17. No more abuse. But for 5 years after, I looked at that mutilated face in the mirror each morning. And then, the pandemic hit. And seemingly overnight, a woman wearing a mask in public became normal, trendy even. Damn, she's hot. Objectifying, yes, but I call that an improvement. I had a chance to rebuild some of the confidence my father took from me. I could go out, have fun, meet people. The first night out, I dance, I flirt, I take shots, and quickly reconceal. I stay out until last call, and then I start to walk home. Hey gorgeous, where are you going? Someone calls from behind me. I recognize the voice, one of the guys from the bar. I walk faster, ankles faltering atop stiletto heels. You too good for me or something? His pace quickens. The cologne is the top note in a bouquet of cigarette smoke and sweat. He's gaining, and then I feel a yank on my ponytail. An alley is close by. He pulls me into it. He pulls off my mask. His eyes widen. You. So does my grin. Hi, Dad. He broke my spirit so that I would remember he was in charge. He broke my nose so I would not forget. He sewed my mouth shut so he wouldn't have to see the rows and rows of razor-sharp teeth every time he made me cry. But tonight, I'm feeling spirited, and it's been years since I've suffered a broken nose by his hand. He throws a punch, and he pulls back a bloody stump. You're a monster, girl, he screams, attempting to catch a gout of blood in the armpit of his shirt. I take a step toward him. I swallow the hand and lick the blood off my teeth. You're a monster. Yeah, maybe he's right, but it kinda runs in the family. It suddenly dawned on me that I didn't understand a single word of the book that I've been reading for so long. I shut it and looked at the cover. The letters were indistinguishable. They seemed so alien to me. Maybe I needed some fresh air. Outside my window, it was a bright and beautiful day. Yes, maybe some fresh air would do me good. I pulled my shoes on and glanced back at the scene outside. Impossible. It didn't make any sense. Raindrops were gently falling against the glass. But how? There hadn't been a cloud in the sky moments before. Something was very wrong. All around me, more and more things were changing. From the color of the walls to the layout of the house, everything looked different each time I turned my head. Panicked, I rushed for a set of stairs that vanished before my very eyes. I was trapped in a room that continued to get smaller and emptier. Soon, it was just me and a television set, a blue screen broadcasting a single, blinking word in the corner. Resume. Tentatively, I pressed the play button. Hello, son. I covered my mouth in shock. Like everything else, the man on the screen's features shifted and morphed. If you're watching this, it means you have begun noticing. Noticing too much, in fact. You won't remember me. In some ways, we never met. I'll do my best to explain. This goes back a ways. Back to when I was a young man, and I came face to face with death. I was afraid to die, and I begged for my survival. To my great relief, death agreed. I would be allowed to live a long, full life, but I was warned there would be a price. I wish now that I had never accepted these terms. Son, if you're watching this now, they finally pulled the plug. I am fading away, and soon, everything I know will too. See, there are people out there who slip through the cracks, people who have only existed in someone else's mind, people who will be erased once I pass away. I'm so sorry, son. You're one of them. A startled cry escaped me. Of course, I couldn't bring myself to erase you entirely. How could I? Instead, I built you this place to hide, this existence, out of my memories. Some are real, some are imagined. Nonetheless, they all exist in some fashion. But the problem I found with memories is they don't last. They fade. They blend. They distort. And I realized, eventually, you would see through the cracks and discover what this place truly is. If you're watching this, there's no turning back now. Farewell, my son. And with that, the tape ended. There was static. Then the screen went blank. I watched as a blackness slowly crept across the walls until the room fell away entirely, and I was left alone in the infinite darkness. Should I punch him in that annoying face, or should I walk away? He screamed and gesticulated at me while I silently looked at him. In my back pocket was a knife, the most powerful thing I owned. In a few seconds, I could cancel a person out of this world. I quickly glanced around. No cameras. The few people milling around looked drugged out or like they had just committed their own crimes. I could do this and walk away with no consequences. He looked like a dad, someone from the city, probably had a kid or two. His car was nice, but not that nice. Way nicer than my bike anyways, and that tiny dent I had made on it would barely cost anything to fix. Nah, it was not worth it. I had things to do. I turned and started walking away. The man grabbed my leather jacket and screamed right into my ear. "I'm talking to you, buddy." And I thought to myself, this man had a choice. I look dangerous. I see myself every day in the morning. I'm wearing leather, I'm on a bike, I'm big. This man works an office job. His biggest problem up until now would have been that someone stole his parking spot, and he decided to create a problem for himself that could literally kill him. The knife throbbed in my pocket as he yelled. I gave him one last chance. Walk away, and we forget that this ever happened. He stopped for a moment, looking at me. His face turned red, and then he suddenly charged at me, yelling with the pent-up rage of 40 years of suburban existence. I sidestepped, drew the knife, and sunk it into his neck, pulled it out, and cleaned it on my trouser. Pops gave me this knife. He fell to the floor, looking up at me. He gurgled, his eyes surprised and afraid. I guess up until now, there had never really been a consequence to his rage. I walked away to my bike and rode away. I'll forget this happened in a few days. That man should have gone for anger management classes, I thought to myself, as the wind blew through my hair, and I rode on down the long highway. A cold, wet, dreary day. I couldn't help but let out a chuckle. How fitting that my ending would be as gloomy and miserable as my short life had been. But despite the occasion, I've never felt happier. I have to keep reminding myself to wipe that huge grin off my face though. This is my funeral after all, a somber occasion. As I scan the room, I make a mental note of everybody who took the time to be here and their reactions. All 9 of them. Couldn't even crack double digits. What a lonely and pathetic life I led. But that's the key. Led, as in past tense. Now I can begin anew and lead the life that I've always envied. The life I deserve. I take a seat and listen to my mother's scripted piece on how wonderful I was and how much she'll miss me. Crocodile tears stream down her face. She must adore all the sympathy and admiration she's receiving, masquerading as the grieving mother. This may be the longest I've heard her speak about me, without slurs or unflattering comparisons to brother dearest. He was the blessing, and I was the afterbirth that slithered out, as she put it. I feel the anger filling inside me, and I want to lash out at her, but I force myself to calm down. I'm not that guy anymore. He's dead now. Finally, the charade winds down, and my casket is lowered into its final resting place. The small group of people who pretended to give a shit about me, or my insignificant life, have filed out. This will likely be the final time that anybody visits my gravesite, and I'm so grateful for that. I toss the vial and syringe in a nearby trash can and walk back to my grave. I lay down over the freshly covered mound and press my ear firmly to the dirt. It's incredible. 6 feet underground, and I can still make out the sound of muffled crying and horrified screams. I know we've never got along, but thank you, brother. You've given me a wonderful life. Alone. That's how I was, all the time. Everyone else around me somehow found friends, loved ones, and then, much later in life, significant others as they grew up. And they just seemed to click, finding people around them with just a snap of a finger. And me? My parents were always fighting, arguing, on the brink of divorce, and they hardly noticed their only daughter. And, of course, I didn't have any friends. I spent my whole life in the shadows, waiting, watching, hoping that somebody would notice me. But nobody ever did. Except, of course, him. He was devilishly handsome, with tousled brown hair and eyes blacker than the night. I was just sitting there, minding my own business in the library, when I felt a touch on my arm. There he was. "Hey, mind if I sit down?" "Sure," I said, wondering what this random boy wanted. "Are you okay? Mind telling me what's wrong? I can help you." His voice was like liquid chocolate. It was the first time anybody talked to me like this, let alone offering me help. The emotions gushed out of my mouth like a torrential waterfall. Tears streamed down my face as I talked about my family situation at home, about how I never made any friends in school. There was so much to talk about, it felt like I was talking for hours. "I just wish people would want a piece of me," I finished, wiping away the last of my tears. The boy chuckled. "And they will, I promise you." "Really?" "Yes, you'll see. Everything will be better by tomorrow." I awoke the next morning to find my parents standing over my bed with wide grins and even wider eyes. "Good morning, sweetie." My grin stretched from ear to ear. My parents were finally paying attention to me. This will be the best day ever. School was even better. I went from a nobody to the most popular girl in school overnight. Everybody crowded around me in waves, fighting each other to have a look at me. Hordes of admirers followed me home like loyal puppies. My parents greeted me at the doorway. "How was school, sweetie? Did you have fun?" I opened my mouth to respond, but then there was a bang, and the horde of admirers swarmed in, chanting my name. My parents were furious. "That's our daughter. Get out." But their cries were drowned out in a sea of cheers. And troubled looks crossed their faces, but then they disappeared and came back with a long silver knife. "How about we share her?" they boomed. Everyone cheered. Sick dread coursed through my body, but I couldn't escape. In my last moments, as the knife came down in one swift chop, I thought I saw the boy again. He gave an almighty chuckle. "You said you want people to have a piece of you. How does that feel?" "Sick," I groaned as the world turned black.
Thank you for watching, everyone. I hope you had a good scare or two. And if you did, give this video a thumbs up so we can spread the nightmares around. Stay haunted, my friends. I'll see you next time.